are listening to the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Fouché Way radio show, live every Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m., sponsored by the nonprofit organization called Canine Hope for Improvement Program, where we hope to improve the quality of our dogs' lives by moving towards a no-kill society. The number here is 818-602-4929. Well, what does it mean to be an effective leader? And what does it mean to be an effective pack leader? Well, the real difference is one of them you can never truly be, and the other you can fake it till you get it right, or not. We have been told that if we can make our dogs sit, down, stay, and come, we will be pack leaders. And we really, with these things, has nothing to do with pack leadership at all. We were told if we could make a dog wait before they eat, wait before going through a door, or wait to be invited on the couch or the bed, we would be pack leaders. If we could make them wait before chasing after a ball, we would be pack leaders. If we could take things from their mouth, we would be pack leaders. Well, I have news for you. Pack leaders don't do any of those things because they are things that were made up out of the mind of human beings. They would never happen in the wild. Pack leaders don't have everyone sitting and downing in the hot sun waiting for a treat. And when it comes to food, they don't make them sit before they eat. They back them away from the food until they have had their fill. And it doesn't matter who goes in or out of the cave in the side of the mountains first. They don't invite each other to sleep in the best places. They don't physically take food from each other's mouths successfully, but they do make them drop it. They are not calm and assertive. In fact, they are everything but calm when they are assertive. They do not practice fairness or equality. It does not exist in their world. They don't share bones or toys. Their life is based on hierarchy. And if equality existed in the pack, they could not. There would be no need for an alpha. Now, I know this may be difficult to accept and to hear, but it's true. Part of understanding something or someone is to accept it for what it is, what you see and not what you hope or wish for it to be. You know, I had a client of mine that asked me, he says, Brandon, why does my dog eat its poop? And I looked at him and I said, because it tastes good. And he says, man, come on. And I said, oh, hey, have you ever seen a dog eat something that he didn't like? I know that might be hard to accept, but it is what it is. Now, there could be some type of hormonal imbalance, something lacking in his nutritional intake, but still, I've never seen a dog eat what he didn't like. So we just got to keep it real. You know, the things that I'm mentioning are but a few reasons why we can't occupy that position as a pack leader. We just don't understand what they do and why they do it. And don't even mention scent marking with its many complications and the ability to smell food a mile away. We just don't have what it takes to be that kind of superhero. We just don't have it. So we are left with faking it till we get it right, if we ever do, especially with the information that we're using, is just not strong enough to support the weight of the problems we are carrying with our dogs. So what can we be for our dogs? Well, you've heard me speak of leadership, but it refers to human qualities, because we are human, and we can't get away from humanizing our dogs. But we can only do it to a degree. See, the psychology we use must be deeper, deep enough to realize we can't let our ego get in the way of logically looking at the problems before us. Just because society has led us down a path that leads to the end of a rainbow, and that the pot of gold at the end of it is a dog that is here to satisfy our will, we feel we don't have to understand theirs because they're just a dog. But yet, we bring these creatures in our home and share our lives with in a way that's equal to our kids and loved ones, as though they are human. We express emotions sometimes that we are ashamed to admit. But we are willing to use and accept an elementary way of communicating consisting of sit, stay, calm, heel, down. No wonder we are having problems with our personal relationships falling apart. We're not able to see and respect the qualities of our dogs as superheroes with abilities that I believe, if we didn't stumble upon the socialness of the wolf that later helped us to hunt, we would not be here today. We weren't at the top of the food chain. We were the food. We were slow. We were weak. We were prey. But the brain, our brain was bigger, so we became observers, observing of how animals hunt, particularly the wolf. So, in its observing, we sat back and we thought, hey, I think maybe we need to rescue some of these pups. That's where that word rescue come from. So we want to rescue some of these pups and for them to come and live with us and help us bring down game so we can eat better, and then we multiplied to where we are today. And you can take it or leave it alone, because I know some of you out there feel that dogs really didn't come from wolves. But that's another show. But really, what kind of leader am I talking about? A leader has to have the ability to inspire those around him or her to achieve what was considered unachievable, humble enough to be self-critical, yet intelligent enough to know they don't know everything, and always seeking improvement. So let's break it down, because I want to be clear to whom I am speaking. I'm speaking to the owners who are trying to save the life of your dog, a dog that is challenging and one you're thinking about giving up on. I want to inspire you by showing you an ability with this show to achieve what was considered unachievable by most. I'm not only talking to institutions that house dogs, rescue organizations, or professionals in the field, because I've been talking to them. I'm now going straight to the source, you, the owners. You see, if I can't make you believe, then they are all lost. But what I will ask of the professionals is no more than what I will require of myself. Be humble enough to be self-critical, yet intelligent enough to know that you don't know everything. See, being a leader is not how tall you stand, how big you make yourself look, how deep your voice sounds, how straight you walk, or even the deep breath you take. These are simply gestures that dogs use to intimidate. Being a good, effective leader is understanding who you are dealing with and what they need to be fulfilled, and then give it to them. But if you're not willing to look at it from the perspective, their perspective, no matter how real it may be, then you are still in denial. We must look at training and positive reinforcement in a very critical way for the first time and become mad as hell and say, I'm not taking it anymore. Why? Because of the way it has been used and represented. It has given people a false sense of security and kept their eyes diverted from the real issue, socialization. We don't have training problems, but we can have problems because of training. Because training teaches avoidance. The word no is an avoidance. Sit, we say, to avoid. Come to avoid. Wait to avoid. Stay to avoid. Down to avoid. Heel to avoid. Leave it to avoid. The word off, to avoid. All are meant to restrict from socialization. How can you, owners, get your self-confidence back if you're avoiding situations? And so my guests today are being set free from this mirage. And hopefully they will drink enough of this Kool-Aid to stay hydrated so they won't be wandering on the heights and hills with dirt up your shorts and a wedgie from a dog fight. We don't want you to get in trouble, man. So this information is to show you how to control your dog. They're your property. And so my first guest today is Marilyn with her 2 German Shepherds. How are you today, Marilyn?
I'm good, Brandon. I loved everything you just said.
Oh, well, thank you. You know, it's always sad to inspire people to think about what we're trying to do here with this show. You know, this is deeper than dog training. Dog training, I believe, was really not necessary, and I have said to you and many people that training is forcing a dog to do something that they already know how to do. I never met a dog that did not know how to do those things, but they did them when nature told them to. And I wanted to have you on because in this intro, it's like I'm talking to you because you've gone through what I'm talking about. You've seen a lot of professionals to try to help you. And why don't you just tell us, our people, who you are and what you've been going through?
Yeah, well, I'm a psychic medium, which with a lot of people who are extremely sensitive and maybe listening to your program may not think that they can summon up that power because they may feel emotional towards the dogs, different than other people. And I am here to say that I have found power by working with Brandon and my dogs and it's not anger. There's an inner strength in me that I have needed to discover for some time, and it's now going out to all different areas in my life because of what I've learned from my dog. Just Saturday I was having a nervous breakdown. I was crying constantly. It was the hardest thing I've ever gone through, one of the hardest things. I've gone through a lot of hard things in my life. And I was at my wit's end, and I had paid about $8,000 in training. I've had mainly treat-based trainers. It only got worse. I did have e-collar, which to me, it felt like everything was a Band-Aid. Nothing was dealing with the problem of my dog. Nobody was explaining to me what my issue with my dog was. My dog, who was never really dog aggressive, then attacked a dog. And then went to attack another dog, and I broke my finger on my right hand, and which stops me from being able to do the work that I need to do for my business.
Right.
In some capacity. And that's when I hit the wall. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn until my friend told me about you. She said before, and my last trainer just kept saying, rehome the dog. Get rid of the dog. You can't handle both dogs.
Yeah,
and that was the worst thing to hear.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I've heard, I've said many times, every time you introduce a dog to a pack or you get a new member in your pack, the equation changes. People don't really understand what I mean by that. I mean, there is a dynamic that takes place with your life when you introduce another dog that we can't fully understand or comprehend. And that's exactly what you went through, because before you got the second dog, I think life was a bed of roses, right?
Life was what, did you say?
Life was good.
Life was good. I had a little old dachshund, So it was easier, and I even had 4 months where my little dachshund died, and I thought, do I really want to add another dog to this picture? I have 3 cats, too, and it's just me. And this is for all the women out there, or single people, let's just put it that way, that think they can't handle 2 animals or 2 dogs. Well, it's been, I said to you the first night when I called you after I saw you, I said, I got my life back. I felt like, and I know I may sound really dramatic, but that was my experience. You know, I was crying constantly. I was living, it was in every ounce of my pores. How am I going to figure this out? How am I going to fix this? I've already had 5 trainers. Nothing's working. She's getting worse.
Wow.
And I felt like I couldn't even leave my home. I stopped entertaining in my home.
What made you decide to even try it again? That's interesting.
You know, because I love her, and I love both of them. And I knew that there was something I didn't understand. I knew there was a piece of information I wasn't getting. And like I said, I had a lot of information in my head, but no foundation. And I didn't want to give up the dogs. I didn't want to rehome my dogs. I love them.
Yeah.
And I truly believe my dog is a happy dog. She loves being off leash on the beach. She loves being off leash hiking. Now all of a sudden I'm doing this new training, which now she's attacking, and it's treat based.
Right.
So I had to understand what the heck is going on. I'm very angry still, as you can tell, about the situation that it got to this point, and that I felt I felt powerless. So I gave all the power to the trainers. I never really said, you know, I did say, why is she doing this? But I felt like I had no information. I was just useless. I was just kind of like a puppet in here trying to figure it out. And now I've taken on a new role where it's like, no, these are my dogs. Nobody's going to tell me to rehome them, and I'm going to figure it out.
And you've had them now for how long?
I've had 2. Venus, who's been the issue, I've had for 2.5 years. And Micah is a puppy, German Shepherd puppy, 7 months. I've had him since January.
Okay. Yeah, you know, it's very interesting. You know, when person comes into my place for help, of course they're there for me to evaluate the dog, but we can't do it unless we evaluate the person. I mean, it's just, it's not going to work. And, you know, I'm coming from an area that it's emotional, hormonal, okay, because of the experiences that I have had with dogs and in my life. I have learned that the problems that people have with their dogs is because of the experiences in their life, okay? And depending on the type of problem that I'm listening to determines how deeply we're going to have to go into those emotional areas, you know? And dogs, I believe, and you've heard me say many times, are like superheroes. They have these abilities that they don't use until they're emotionally pushed, hormonally pushed into those areas. And depending on how emotional we are, whether we're neurotic or not, they're going to pick up on that, because dogs can tell if people are going to have seizures, and they can smell body parts underwater, they can smell cancer. They have a lot of abilities. And in the business that you do, because you work with people that are in emotional states in their life, that energy coming into your home, your dogs are affected by that. And if you have had any emotional setbacks that are related to fear, regardless to what you do for a living, you will produce a dog that will become a part of that. In other words, if you've had, let's say, people that are living on their own, if you've ever had anyone that is stalking you, or things like that, and that emotional feeling, that fear that you have because of that, will be transferred to the dog, and that dog, depending on whether it's an alpha, beta, subordinate, or runt, will take upon that job, that emotional job of protection. So if you feel that you need protection, you can produce a dog that will protect its environment. Not because you told him to, verbally, but emotionally.
Right.
And this is what you're... Go on.
Go ahead.
this is what our dogs do. And so that's why when I asked you what's happening in your life, we were able to figure that out.
Yeah, and like I said to you, I've been burglarized twice, not in this house, and I have a stalker situation.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first got Venus, I always wanted a German Shepherd. You were very funny. You're like, what made you get a German Shepherd when you had 3 cats?
Right.
And I've always wanted one, and it's so balanced in the house now. And I want to be very clear, my anger is not directed toward my dogs. There's no anger directed towards my dogs.
Mm-hmm.
The anger is directed towards the trainers that have come into my home.
Mm.
The anger is directed towards that situation. And I had said to you that I wanted Venus to be a protection dog without fully understanding. So she was carrying a lot of my fear. She was carrying, I was giving her confused signals. Now, I am not in that state anymore. I don't know what happened that from my experience with you on Monday to that very next day, I have completely changed. And I know people probably listening may sound like this is crazy, but it's true. I was walking my dogs and petrified, watching every single move, watching where everybody was, watching where dogs were. You know, if a dog was coming near me, I felt powerless is the best way to say it. And now I don't have any of those experiences walking my dogs. And I also feel protected by them because they have a big bark. Anybody who sees those 2 dogs are going to know. Plus, I have an alarm system and all that other stuff in place. But, you know, it's definitely a more balanced situation. And what I have to say, first of all, your radio show, when I couldn't get through to you, I listened to it every day while I was walking one of the dogs.
Wow.
And I was crying constantly because I was relating to everybody on the radio show. And it was helping quite a bit.
Good. That's what, it's really what this is for. I mean, we're all here together going through the same thing. And that's how we're going to help each other out, you know? That's how we're going to help each other out. And so I'm glad to hear things like that. That's what this was designed for, you know?
Exactly.
And
that was the other...
Go on.
The other thing I said to you, I said, you can't be the last stop. It seems like you're the last stop for a lot of people. And you have to be... You know, I said to you also, I said, if I talked to you 6 months ago, I would have thought you were insane, or a year ago, because I was so conditioned. One of the first trainers I had said, you don't want to correct a dog. And basically, like, if my dog jumped on me, I was supposed to turn my back. It really did nothing.
It's avoiding.
Right.
It's avoiding.
And all of the things we're avoiding, like if Micah was chasing the cats, I was supposed to call him to come and give him a treat. Well, Micah's really smart, so Micah kept chasing the cats because every time I'd call him and give him a treat.
Exactly. Seems very logical, but somehow it's not.
No.
You have to point it out, you know. And, you know, when we have these kind of problems, man, I mean, just listening to them, if you're having gone through problems, they seem, it's okay. I can understand a little discomfort. No, these things control your world.
Yeah.
You know, they affect you making a living, going out of your house, going on dates, having people over. You can't do it. No.
I felt trapped in my house. I felt like I couldn't leave. The only thing I could do since I broke my finger, you know, and she attacked, 2 weeks it was about before I came to you and understood who you were. And it was all I could talk about. My friends who don't have dogs. And then people would say, who didn't have dogs, get rid of the dog. And I turned around, and people may be annoyed that I said this, but I said, would you get rid of a kid if you were having problems?
Well, I don't see any difference. You love them both.
Right, and I chose not to have children. I chose to have dogs. So they're my kids.
Yeah, you don't give up on it. You know, and it's easy. And that's why I always talk about this being a relationship. There are people that can be in relationships and they give up so easily simply because they don't understand, because they're not looking at it from that other person's perspective. You know, we have to reflect back like this, you know, but I guess if you haven't gone through enough, you won't know that this is important to do. You know, but you know, I just happen to think that dogs are way much more than what we think. They are actually a signpost. You know, they're a beacon of light for us to guide us back to reality. That just happens to be the way I look at it. So I'm able to see things from a different perspective, and the purpose of this show is to express some of those feelings that I have, and hopefully that someone will be able to see what I'm talking about. And those that don't, in time, if they continue to listen and talk to people that are on the show, that they will begin to understand themselves, you know?
And the thing you teach, Brandon, is, you know, for every dog. It's not, you're teaching an understanding of dogs that whether you have a docile dog, if, you know, a relaxed dog, it still gives you an understanding to have a better relationship with your dog. It's not only for aggressive dogs, your overall teaching of it.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that, because I used to think otherwise, and so I've heard that more than once. So, you know, I'm believing myself. You know, I feel that.
And I agree. And the other thing I want to say is, I've learned, you know, coming home and that night after seeing you and practicing the things that you taught me and sitting there with myself, you know, you gave me a couple of warnings that were really good. You said your dogs are going to behave a little different around you because you're different now. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to have heard that because I knew that what I was doing was allowing them to love me more. And no sooner did I have that thought that Micah came over and laid right by my feet and wanted to be with me in a balanced way.
Right. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we want to love our dogs, and we don't think, you know, that by being you know, controlling, that they're going to love us. But that's exactly what they're looking for, that leadership. Exactly.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. And it's really amazing how it dominoes out into the rest of your life, because I know a lot of people that are in the experience that I had. Mm-hmm. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I remember talking to you and like I just could not see it. I felt like it was going to be like this for the next 12 to 14 years. And I was like, I can't live in this chaos for that many years. You're right. It's like the thought of dating or the thought of bringing, you know, meeting a man that may have kids, you know, right. That wouldn't even, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I can't do that. So I'm shutting my whole life down.
Exactly. And you're doing it out of love.
Yeah.
You're doing it out of love. So, Marilyn, I'm really glad that you came to see me, and of course we're not going to stop. We're going to continue because there's other things you want to do. You want to be able to go to Runyon Canyon and places like that, and you know, we have to build your confidence up and teach you how to deal with fear from the perspective of dogs. You know,
yeah.
Because if you understand how dogs can become fearful and fear aggression and dominance aggression, you know, there are many levels of aggression and reasons that they have them. The better that you are at understanding them, the more successful that you're going to be with your two dogs. But the main thing here is that now, because you were thinking about maybe having to get rid of these dogs, and now you see by having two is just as easy as having one.
Definitely.
And that's what's important here. So I want to thank you for coming on and talking to the people and telling us your journey. But it's not over, and we will have you on again, okay?
Yeah, thank you so much, Brandon. And like I said before, the cats really thank you because it's very peaceful here.
That's right. He's not after the cat again, too. So you got a double whammy there, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Well, our next guest is Janelle. Janelle, are you there?
I am.
How you doing today?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks to you. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good, especially hearing the way you said that. It makes me feel even better. You know,
yeah.
Your story, you were a person that had fostered or adopted from Angel City Pit Bull. Is that correct?
That's right.
Why don't you tell us what you were going through?
So, you know, the dynamic of our house had completely changed when we had adopted the third dog. Mm-hmm. And it actually took, we've had her for about a year now. And so it actually took about 7 months before she started to exhibit, you know, some of the behavioral issues that we were having before we came to tell you. And, you know, those issues obviously stemmed from the other dogs having full reign of the house and not necessarily being in the right state of mind like we had discussed before. And so drove her to her edge, and she started lashing out at both of them to the point where, you know, both of them had to go to the emergency vet for various reasons.
Yeah, I want our listeners to understand what's happening here. You've got 3 dogs, 2 that you had prior to the third one, And when you adopted the third one on, there were issues that were happening with the two that you were not aware that you needed to control before you got the third dog. Is that pretty much it?
That's completely true.
And,
so, that's just basically it. The two dogs had gotten along well. The first one we've had since a puppy. The second one we had adopted. And, what's funny is that, I've never had a dog before. And so the second dog, he's a bully breed as well. And so when we got him, and I never had a dog before, instinctually, anything that he did wrong, I'd kind of address, but I didn't necessarily know that I was doing exactly what, some of your training techniques that you spoke about were actually what we're supposed to be doing. And so when the third dog came along, I think we had discussed that we spoiled her rotten, and that was what brought about everything.
Yeah, adding another dog changes the equation. And the past relationships that you have, we decide that we want to get another dog. Doesn't necessarily mean our dog wants another dog.
Right.
Doesn't mean that, they're bored and they want a friend. This has to do with us. And that's why it's important for us to be the pack leader, because we have to decide who is allowed to come into our home and who's not, And, we actually say pack leader, but just the leader, just have those leadership qualities that you're watching everything is what's going to help you, because we're really not dogs. We're not able to see what we need to see, and we have to be taught that.
Right.
And so you tried to get help. What happened? How did that go?
We had talked to Angel City pit bulls when the first initial attack happened on our 15-pound poodle. And so, they said, well, let's try and get a hold of Brandon and go from there. And, obviously I know you're extremely busy and we couldn't get a hold of you. And so our next route in the meantime was, okay, well, why don't we look into veterinary behaviors? So we did that. And, I'm thinking, oh, okay, finally this is going to help, and just like the previous caller Marilyn said, it was all treat-based reward, positive training, and lo and behold, a day after she had told us what to do, we had a baby cage between them, and, they got their treats on either side, Buster and Paxton on one side, Buddha, on the other side, and after she got her treats, the other two got their treats, and she charged the baby gate, and it came down, and there goes another vet visit. So that really was the last straw, because, we felt bad for the fact that we couldn't protect any of our dogs, and then we had to separate them.
So this is training and behavior modification techniques is what you were being taught.
Yes.
Here's the problem, as I was mentioning in the first part of the show. If you've got a dog that's jealous of the other dogs that are there, if you've got dogs that are spoiled, if you introduce toys, if you introduce treats, you are creating a problem for yourself. So, if you try to fix that problem with treats, positive reinforcement, then you're going to have a bigger problem, because you're positively reinforcing the negative behavior the moment that you enter in food, because the dogs were fighting over food. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how you do it. The moment the smell hits the nostrils, it's on.
Yeah, completely, and that's our household.
So this was misdiagnosed, but it's not uncommon. Okay, it's not uncommon. So what you've got to understand here in your situation is that you've got a dog that's jealous. So okay, your dogs are jealous. Where is the jealousy coming from? What's happening? And chances are, when you brought me that dog, I evaluated that dog, and there's video on my Fouché Way Facebook page. I suggest everyone look at it, because you said this was a dog that was dog aggressive. And before I knew anything, when you came to pick the dog up, I said, something's wrong here. This dog is fine, there's something else going on. And that's when you brought up the other dogs at home and that dog that's being spoiled. And this happens a lot, you know. And I said, look, it's your other dog. It's your other dog that's promoting this thing, this little yapper that you got.
Yep.
And I gave you some things to do. And tell everyone what's happening in your household now.
Man, I can't even tell you. It's a completely different house. Like it's so funny. Like I don't recognize my house, which is a good thing. It's so funny. You know, literally after you had given us the tools to implement, we got home, did it, and you know, just like Buddha, the other dog is very stubborn. So it took him about 15 minutes to get in line, and then after it's been completely different. He and the other dogs no longer charge the front door when somebody rings the doorbell. He no longer sits there and barks incessantly at anything. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a night and day difference, and that was within 15 minutes.
Right.
And just visiting, you know, coming home and implementing what you'd given us.
And you know, this is really important because you've been separating these dogs for how long?
About 3 months now, and it's, you know, just like Marilyn had said, it was really, really frustrating, and it's stressful. And again, not to sound like, you know, it's drama, but when you have to constantly rotate everybody so that they're not attacking each other, it's a hard way to live day in, day out.
Yeah, they call it crate and rotate.
Yeah, mm-hmm. It's not fair. It's not fair to the dog.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you know, look, I want to thank you guys for doing it. And you've got those dogs together, and, you know, they're all together. You sent the pictures. There's pictures on Facebook.
Yeah.
And, you know, these guys are together again. It's not important that they play, okay? It's important that they tolerate. And when you get dogs that tolerate in a house where dogs were fighting, they're showing that they respect you as the leader. And what you will find is everyone's calm.
Yeah,
calm
completely.
And happy. As if they're saying, wow, this is all we were looking for.
Yeah, and I tell you, even, you know, even after I think I saw you on Friday, the very next day I took them on a walk, and it's the first time we had walked all three of them without them pulling us.
Really?
Amazing. It was
and you know,
amazing.
we didn't even deal with the walking, you know, but it's the change that you made that allowed that to happen.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you. It's amazing.
Well, hey, man, I'm happy for you guys. And I'm glad that you're a part of what we're doing here, and I'm sure you're going to continue and be a part of the Fouché way. I mean, it's a big job that we have here, man, trying to change lives and keep dogs out of the shelter. Because I'm sure those dogs were going to the shelter or going back to the rescue organization.
Yeah, and that's not, you know, that's not ever what I've ever envisioned about, you know, once we get a dog, we adopt it. And just like the previous caller said, would you do that to your kids? Absolutely not. So you do everything you can to help the dog out. Everything you can.
That's it, exactly. And that's why I said you guys, you know, you kept searching, you kept looking, and that's what it's all about. And, you know, if you have time, I want you to stay on the phone because I want to bring Teresa in. Teresa, are you there?
I am.
Hi. How are you today? You know, you have a dog named Truman, and the reason I want to bring you into this is because you've got a little dog too.
Yes.
And you
Malcolm.
And you brought me Truman, and as if to say, okay, Truman is the problem here, and once we start talking after you came back, we realized, wait a minute, just like Janelle, you got a little scrapper at home too.
Exactly. Yeah, and Truman was just following his cues.
Yeah, and
yeah,
that little one is in control, the little spoiled one. He's the one who starts it, and then Truman finishes it.
Correct.
You know?
Yes.
And so, you know, why we have Janelle on the line, I want you to kind of tell your story, your journey, because you have an interesting profession too, And you guys, your life is revolved around dogs. Can you kind of tell our listeners, who you are and what you guys do?
Sure. I'm a dog walker and pet sitter and have had a business for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And my husband and I also own a pet food and supply store. Mm-hmm. So we've been around dogs for, the last 10 years plus mm-hmm. of our lives. And I take care of a lot of clients' dogs in my home. And I, adopted Truman, and he's, part pit bull. And I just wanted to have the best, well-trained pit mm-hmm. bull out there. Mm-hmm. And I was just on this journey to train this dog. And I would, continually search, read every book on training, go to trainers, take another class, go to a seminar, get a DVD. I would get these emails every week from this publishing company that publishes dog training books, mm-hmm. and it was like the latest book. And, I'd be buying these books. Mm-hmm. And, nothing was working. None of this stuff was working. I was searching down the wrong path. Mm. It was like, I didn't know my dog. You helped me, diagnose my dog properly. And once I see who my dog is, now I can be, an effective leader for my dog.
That's interesting.
But I didn't know.
Yeah, that word diagnose. We went from training to diagnose. That's pretty. Mm-hmm. That's pretty powerful.
I didn't know who my dog was, mm-hmm. so I'm trying to apply all these things and mm-hmm. training and this type of training and that type of training, and none of it was working because, number one, I didn't really even know who my dog was or mm-hmm. what his issues was or mm-hmm. where he was in the pack, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I'm applying techniques that don't even, work. Mm-hmm. So we weren't getting anywhere.
Wow. It's a lot of people out there like you, mm-hmm. As soon as your dog walked into my place, I said, okay. I know what we're looking for. We're looking at some type of fear. But what is it? Is it genetic or is it learned? And as we started going on, the reason that you brought him there, when you came back, I said, hey, that's not your problem.
Right.
Remember that?
Yes.
I said, your bigger problem is people, and that's not even what you brought him there for.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, and the problem that you brought him there for existed because of the problem that I found. That's why you're having problems with little dogs. But you don't have problems with little dogs. You don't have problems with little dogs. You have told your dog, your husband, your family, that mm-hmm. you wanted him to be this kind of dog. You created him. And he's confused because mentally that's not what he is. See, when I talk about is this dog fear aggressive, dominant aggressive, subdominant aggressive, a multi-layered, is it a alpha, beta, subordinate, or runt? What kind of fear is this? Is it genetic or is it learned? That's where all this stuff comes together, and we mix it up, and we're able to look at all the components and separate them and say, this is what we're dealing with. And so when you came back, I told you exactly what's happening. And I remember the expression on your husband's face. It was very emotional, very emotional.
Yeah.
Because, when we do things for our dogs, we do it out of love. And we don't want to hear that what we're doing out of love is creating aggression. It's not something we want to hear. And it was difficult for him to hear that.
Right.
It's difficult.
Because we love the dog.
We love the dog. But he got it.
We were just doing a huge disservice, mm-hmm. To our dog.
Isn't it interesting? Go on. Sorry.
Well, and just being around dogs and, walking so many dogs and, I was the one having the problem with my own dog. Mm-hmm. Part of me was embarrassed, like I couldn't, get a hold of my dog mm-hmm. or take my dog out on these walks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it made me sad. It made me very sad.
Yeah.
And that's why I just kept searching, but I was searching, you know, down the wrong path, you know, these training books that weren't, you know, I was so focused, like when we were walking, on giving all these commands to my dog, and it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how did you find me? What?
I years ago had a friend who found you, and then I just heard your name through different people I know, or different dog walkers or rescue groups. Mm-hmm. I've heard your name, and it, you know, and then I'm like, I'm gonna try Brandon, and mm-hmm. It took me a while to reach you, and I was getting frustrated and impatient, and kept thinking the situation's gonna get worse, and you know, just projecting more. Mm-hmm. more fear and problems in the household. And I started listening to your radio show, and like I think Marilyn and Janelle said, I got very emotional because I could relate to a lot of people mm-hmm. stories. I hear the woman who had lupus with the pit bull, and I was crying listening to her story. Mm-hmm. And I just, you know, wanted to meet you so badly, and mm-hmm. now I have, and I really feel blessed. I really do.
Well,
because, you know, I feel like connecting with you has just put an end to this, you know,
good
suffering of my dog and our family.
Yeah. You know, I always say that working with aggression, you've got to be as sober as the judge. You got to be as honest as you can be. There is no room for mistakes in terms of what you feel, you know. And it's not about being selfish. It's about being totally open, honest, and willing to look at it from the dog's perspective. That takes a lot of work to live in the moment. It really does. Yeah. Because humans, as I mentioned to you, we look at this moment as a stepping stone to the next moment, so we never fully see what's in front of us. Where our dogs live within the moment, they're trying to extract all that they can from this one moment. And so,
right.
If you can stay connected to that, when they come in, you look at their eyes, and we talk about body language and the way they hold their ears and their tail, and I was expressing and showing you all of those things, remember?
Yes.
How to look at your dog and interpret what's happening is so important. You know, it's almost like I'm saying, look, can you see? You're like, well, I don't get it. And then finally you see it. You know, it's like you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you walk towards it. And as you're walking towards, you start to change emotionally, hormonally. And as you're walking towards that and you're with your dog, you are actually able to see them transform into something that you can't even explain how this thing happened. And so you go home, and you implement these things, and what happens?
Well, I mean, immediately I saw results. I saw results with my children. Mm-hmm. I mean, it took one time. Yeah. And I saw results with my children, how Truman reacted.
And he was going after your kids. He was going after your kids.
Ahead.
Going after your kids.
When he got excited and aroused, he would go after my kids if they're, doing like a activity, playing, jumping around, jumping rope, skateboarding.
Yeah, skateboard was a big deal.
Skateboarding was a huge deal.
I used to deal with skateboards years ago, and we still a whole different thing. I have no bones saying that my techniques have changed too. You have to change over the years. You got to become better if you keep doing the same darn thing. And now we're able to look internally at the dog to be able to manipulate hormones rather than trying to physically control them. And what you saw in that video, I don't think you could have believed that was possible.
I know.
Yeah.
And I was physically trying to control him around the skateboard. Mm-hmm. And I felt horrible about it. Mm-hmm. Just like it was so forceful.
Did you take
so aggressive on my part to try and control him. and it wasn't working. Then the next day, the skateboard's out again, and he would be the same way.
Yeah. You've got that prong collar off now, right?
I did not use a prong collar or a choke chain since I've seen you, and that is huge. I couldn't believe it last night when we were walking.
Yeah.
I mean, he was slowly walking further and further behind me, just like relaxing into himself. And I was relaxing, and I kept thinking, he doesn't even have a prong collar on or a choke chain.
And you know what's so beautiful about this? You know, I always say once you start making the change, you'll see other changes. We never even talked about how to walk your dog, right?
No,
we
we
never talked about it. And you told me, hey, my dog's walking behind me. What's going on? I don't have any, choke chain or anything on him. You actually met a dog on the walk, too, a small dog? Or a medium-sized dog?
And I would never let him meet dogs on leash on a walk, ever.
Wow.
We're always avoiding crossing the street.
Right. What about the little guy? You got him under control now?
I do.
Okay.
Today I took him on his own walk today and worked with him.
Okay, good.
And
Janelle, you there? Janelle?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
here.
So you hear her? She's got her little guy together?
That's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
So both of you got the same homework to do with these two guys. And, and hey, man.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I'm so happy. I'm so happy to meet all of you, to be able to help your dog and to put you on the path that I've been on, and I'm trying to get other people to get on, and I think it's working. I think
it is.
I think we're doing it. I don't want to get too happy, but I am very happy that we're moving in this direction. I'm happy to hear what I'm hearing about the radio show. I mean, when I come here every Thursday, I put my heart into what I'm saying to try to get you to understand. Sometimes we may say the same thing, but I got to say it in different ways before we even start to go on to new things. I want to try to pull as many people as we can together at the same time, and I want you to continue to call me to let me know what's happening. I want you guys to talk to each other, to keep each other sharp, because this is what this is all about. And let's save these dogs. They didn't ask to be here. They didn't ask for you to adopt them. We think that when we adopted them, we're going to make their life wonderful, but we do the same thing that the last people had that lost control of the dogs and turned them into the shelter. And then we get them and we do the same thing. It's time to change the way we think. It's got to be different, And we call this the Fouché way. I didn't call it that. People called it that, and I like it because it is my way, And I want to keep you guys tight. I want to keep you tight in this to help your dog. And I want to let everybody know. Oh, time is rolling, but I want to let everybody know. These dogs have not been through rehabilitation. Only an evaluation. Only an evaluation. And so with that, I'm going to say goodbye, but I'm going to see you again next Thursday. Please tune in, same time, same place, the Fouché Way radio show. And I want to thank all of our guests. Thank you, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.